So guys, how you all getting on? You can see the results of the last fasting challenge. They were excellent, very good. I was trying to add up the total weight loss of everybody, all the pounds, and add up. I got to about 210 pounds. I stopped. I started losing track, but 210 pounds. That's the same weight as me. So we basically lost a 15 stone person nearly. Alright, so very, very good. Well done. Now again, what we need to do now is try to manage this next 3 weeks. What we're looking for here, we've talked about this in previous after previous challenges. It's about maintenance now, right? Maintenance. A good idea here is to download the nutrition app. Now I'll put a link up for it again for those people who just new to the last fasting challenge, and track your calories as much as possible. Now we're trying to not be too regimental, we're trying to be a bit more relaxed, because the whole point of a 5-day challenge is that you're not living your life constantly in a diet, constantly obsessing about food and constantly trying to lose weight, because again, that's just counterproductive. But one of the things I want you to try and think about this time, for everybody that has done it before, people that are new, one of the biggest factors that's going to allow you to maintain this or keep losing weight or prevent you from putting on weight, or one of the factors that have made you put weight on in the first place. And I want you to really listen to this carefully, because again, I'm working in gyms now over 30 years, right? I'm 49 this year. I've been working in gyms since I was about 16, 17, 18. So I'm doing this a long time. I've worked with a lot of people. It's all well and good having the information and the knowledge about hormones and about nutrition and about exercise, and you could have perfect technique in the gym and you could have read it the perfect diet and do all this stuff. But one of the things you got to understand is human behavior, right? And human emotion and stress management. That's one of the main issues. Because what you'll find is there's a reason why we all put on weight in the first place. I mean weight. I don't mean a pound or a stone or something like that. I don't mean people who maybe if a stone or two to lose is down to just bad habits and not really focusing too much on your lifestyle. We're talking about when you've got that bit of weight on an excess of about 3 stone, 4 stone, and you really struggle. You have to ask yourself the question: why did I put this weight on in the first place? Why did I get to that point where beyond realizing, hang on, I need to do something about this? Right? I'm starting to feel uncomfortable in my clothes. I'm starting to get out of breath walking up the stairs. I'm starting to not look in the mirror anymore. I now dread going out. I hate buying clothes. Holidays are just a no-no. I just want to stay at home and comfort eat. Right? So how did we get to that point? If we could have managed that, we wouldn't be here struggling anyway. Alright, so it's understanding stress. Now, when I say stress, and this is the key here, it's identifying what stress actually is. Your body has one stress response, regardless of what type of stress you may perceive it to be. Alright, what I mean by that is, well, it's financial stress, physical stress, emotional stress, somebody's being violent towards you, whether you're just in a bad mood, whether it's depression, all those different kinds of stressors, environmental stress, food stress. They have one response in the body, right? You have one stress response, regardless of what you perceive the type of stress to be. Like you may say, I'm not somebody who gets stressed easy, I'm fine. But there could be environmental stresses, which means, for example, you're eating food that's bad for you. It could be anything. There could be things going on around you that are very toxic, but you think that you don't stress. Environmental stress, the weather, drastic changes in climate, they're all stress, right? Times with no food, all these things, having the kids going on all the time, work getting on your back, you're afraid because you lose your job, you're falling out with your partner. These are all stresses, right? They're all completely different, but they all have one stress response, and that one stress response is cortisol, right? And the elevation of cortisol, your fight or flight hormone. So let me break this down for you and explain exactly what happens here. Let's say, for example, what your stress response was evolutionary designed to do from an evolutionary point. It was a saber-toothed tiger jumps on through the door right now, about to eat you. Your stress response, or what we call your fight or flight, is what we call your sympathetic nervous system. So you've got your autonomic nervous system, which is they call it autonomic as in it's automatic, right? And it's divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is your fight or flight. Parasympathetic is what we call rest and digest, opposing hormones. You can only have one or the other. You can't be in both states at the one time. That makes sense, right? So your fight or flight, right? Sympathetic nervous system. So the saber-toothed tiger jumps through the door, and you have this perception. Hypothalamus perceives danger. Key word there is perceives danger. All right, so remember that for me, please. So what am I going to do? So your sympathetic nervous system has a cascade of things that it does in order to get you ready to fight or flee. There's actually four: fight, flight, fawn, and there's another one that we're not going to talk about. Anyway, so what that means is fight, flee, or play dead. Or there's another one, but we'll leave that one out. Alright? So your body has a cascade of things that it does. One, it'll dilate your pupils, the tunnel vision on what the danger is, because let's be honest, nothing else around at that time really matters, right? This is the danger and I need to focus on it, so we get tunnel vision. Heart rate starts to elevate, right? Because that's got an effect where it starts to elevate your breathing. Heart rate goes up, breathing rate goes up, because I know I'm going to need more oxygen into my muscles to help me run or fight for my life. Alright, you're going to start to sweat, even though you haven't started moving yet. The body's very good at going, right, I'm going to need to cool my body temperature down, because my body temperature now is about to shoot through the roof as I run or fight for my life. So all these things happen. I'm going to need blood in my extremities. I'm going to need them for my arms and my legs to either fight or to run. So all the blood that would usually be inside your organs, alright, digesting food, would flush out to your arms. That means that your digestive tract's no longer going to work well. The body will prioritize energy to things that's going to keep you alive. So for example, energy here, right, on my hands and my feet, it's going to switch off things like reproductive cycle, which is a lot of women whenever they're trying to get pregnant and they're stressed, can't. It's stress, right? You're so focused on trying to get pregnant that you can't. Then when people stop over focusing on, oh my god, I just get pregnant, it's all to do with stress. All right, so the whole cycle that goes on. Same, men have the exact same effect as well too. So all these cascade of things happen. Now the adrenal glands then release adrenaline. Adrenaline is going to give you energy to get up and go, that quick go. But cortisol kicks in. The reason why cortisol activates is cortisol's job is designed to elevate your blood sugars. Now we've talked about this before, the reasons why we're fasting and insulin and stuff like that. Cortisol will break down muscle tissue and convert it back into glucose. Remember we talked about that gluconeogenesis, where the body will make energy from something else? Well, cortisol's job is to do that and do it quickly. So elevate your blood sugar levels quick. Because again, we're talking about an evolutionary sort of survival trait here. So in the evolution, there's usually more than normal with no food about. So there's no food in your stomach increasing blood glucose, so I need blood glucose to be elevated, because I need sugar in my body. I need energy to run. I don't know how long we're fighting here. I don't know how long if they run before they stay alive, so I'm going to have to supply my body with energy quick. Adrenaline's fine for a quick burst, but I need energy, right? So the body breaks down muscle tissue, converts that back into blood glucose. Blood glucose or blood sugar is elevated, all right? So we now have energy, right? So that's the whole cascade of things that's going on. You can understand the reasons why they would be necessary to fight or flight. Right, that's called an acute stress response. Acute meaning once that danger is gone, so either you got away or the bastard edgy, but either way it was done. That acute response should be about between 3 and 5 minutes, and then subside back, and your breathing rate will come back down to normal, your heart rate will drop back down, your body will stop to sweat, and you'll drop into parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, all right? But unfortunately, the stressors that we encounter now in life, for example, relationships, kids, jobs, finances, we are chronically elevated, right? Chronically elevated. So that fight or flight response is happening all the time. This is why people suffer from a lot of anxiety. That adrenaline is pumping all the time. It's just like, oh, what's going on? But what happens here, and this is really fascinating to understand how this has, but it's really important to understand this. So blood sugars are elevated, and we've talked about this when we did the fasting. What happens when blood glucose are elevated? Well, insulin has to come to try and manage that blood sugar, because otherwise you're hyperglycemic. So insulin comes to say, right, oh, this blood sugar now is elevated, I need to shuttle this into the cells, all right? I need to put it into all the cells. Now what happens when this insulin is pumping all the time is, we talked about this as well too, the cell becomes insulin resistant, all right? So the cell will no longer be responding to the insulin to allow all the energy to come into the cell and allow your blood sugar levels to drop back down again. No, it won't do that, so blood sugar's going to say, store that as fat, store that as fat. But these blood sugars never come down. And imagine then you're eating food, shitty food, sugary food, on top of that, that's even more elevated blood glucose. And what happens when you have chronically high cortisol and chronically high insulin, right, which has happened from all this stress, The body produces an enzyme called LPL, which is called lipoprotein lipase. Don't need to understand what that is or the reason being, but that prioritizes fat storage around the midsection, specifically around your organs and your belly, all around your visceral fat. So this is why we get what they call a stress belly. All right, you've heard people saying a stress belly or whatever. So when you're stressed, you get this. Now the other job of this fight or flight hormone or cortisol is to increase your, what we really don't want right now is your appetite, because I'm going to need more energy to run and fight for my life. I'm going to need to eat something now to replenish it, but we're chronically high. So our body now gets sugar cravings saying, right, feed me some energy because I'm fighting for my life here. But you're not, right? Blood sugar's already elevated and stored as fat. You then get more hungry and you add in more sugar on top of elevated blood sugar, which leads to more insulin resistance, which means that the cells can no longer bring in any glucose at all and everything is getting stored as fat. Then LPL, lipoprotein lipase, is elevated through the roof, and that's just belly fat, belly fat, belly fat, belly fat, belly fat. On top of that, your mood starts to drop, which means you're now becoming a very emotional person, and dopamine starts to decrease. Whenever you feel low mood, the chemical in your brain, dopamine, which is your get up and go hormone, that starts to decrease. When that starts to decrease, things that taste nice that can trigger dopamine, like alcohol, drugs, specifically cocaine, is very dopamigenic. The body then starts to crave these things. I want more of this because it makes me feel good. It gives me a dopamine spike. Food, as they say, it's as addictive as cocaine, but only from the point of view of the dopamine hit that you get from it. So we've got this cascade of stress belly, cortisol, insulin, LPL, hunger, blood sugar spikes, creating more hunger, low mood, creating low dopamine, which means we want to then eat to make ourselves feel good. And all this is going around because we're chronically stressed, right? So you can see how this leads to people being overweight. Then what happens is you start to get overweight, self-confidence starts to drop, motivation starts to decline, and we're screwed, right? None of that has got anything to do with proper training technique or good nutrition advice. It's how the fuck do I manage the stress? How do I manage the stress? Because if you could manage the stress, you probably wouldn't overeat in the first place because you've got none of that shit happening. Does that make sense? So as well as trying to manage your calories between now and the next fasting challenge, the objective is as well too, is to try and manage your stress. Now, part of what I've designed in the 5-day challenge is for that dopamine spike at the end of it. You notice I always say, tell me how you feel at the end of it, right? That's dopamine. Oh, I feel good. That was good. I did really well. I didn't just ask for your weight. I asked, how do you feel? I'm trying to get a dopamigenic sort of response from you. Oh, I did really well. I felt good, and I shared it with the group, and they said, well done back, and I feel great, and I feel fantastic. I mean, that's dopamine. We need that. We need that to keep going and do it. So now there's 3 weeks. You're looking forward to the next fast challenge. Oh, can't wait to do that again because it really worked for me. I did brilliant. I lost a couple of pounds. If I can do that every month, if I can do that for maybe a year, 12 times a year, I could lose all the weight. Fantastic. It's going to be released. I feel great. See what I mean? It's that sort of dopamine response. But this is now going to subside, right? So we need to learn to manage this. Now, listen. The best way to do this, from my experience, from someone who suffered bad depression and went through this whole roller coaster of shit, right? Meditation and journal. Now, when I say meditation and journal, I don't mean woo-woo stuff, all right? I don't mean you're going to get all zen-like. But what we need to do is we need to manage cortisol. Now, cortisol spikes first thing in the morning. For women going through perimenopause and menopause, the reason why you can't sleep is cortisol's elevating. All right, we've got 2 sleep hormones. Well, one to put us to sleep and one to wake us up. Going to sleep is what we call is a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin normally releases when lights start to go down. It starts to get a wee bit dimmer. We start to become more relaxed. And melatonin releases into your body to help you relax when you go to sleep. It makes you feel very drowsy and relaxed, puts you to sleep. Then through your circadian rhythm, which means things start to get naturally light, cortisol starts to spike, and this is what gives you that energy to wake up. This is why when you wake up, you have energy and you're hungry, right? Just like what happens in that fight or flight response. So this is the way it's supposed to work. But if insulin's chronically high, your sleep goes down. You're not sleeping well, which again leads to more cortisol, which leads to this whole thing happening all over again, even worse and worse and worse. So when I talk about managing stress, I mean managing cortisol. There's a few things that we can do to manage cortisol. Meditation is very good. Guided meditation is very good. If you go on YouTube, just type in 5-minute guided meditation. Just listen to it. Don't try and do anything else. Don't try and not think. Don't try and do all this silly stuff. just listen to it. Just get a cup of coffee, sit down at the kitchen table, close your eyes, and just listen. Alright, try and do it at a time when there's no one around. For me personally, my morning routine starts an hour before anybody else is going to get up, so nobody can interrupt my morning routine. It's my time, it's time for me to start off my day, and I feel great with it. Just stick on the guided meditation, 5 minutes, just sit back and just listen to it and breathe. It really, really helps to bring cortisol down, more than I could tell you. Journaling for me then was a lifesaver. Journaling, to be quite honest, hand on heart, is the only reason I'm still walking this planet, because I was at a point in my life where I didn't want to be here no more, and I learned the tools to try and relax that cortisol and manage stress. For me, journaling is the key to everything that I could ever achieve or want to achieve, and it's done through gratitude. Here's the best way to start with. My journaling routine is a bit more complex now, because I've learned to tweak it and master it for who I am and what I want to do. But the way that I started, the way everybody should start, is just write down 3 things that you're grateful for, right? That's it. Now, you don't have to believe them, even though you know they're true. For example, I'm grateful for the kids. Now, we say that, but we don't actually really believe it. Not when we're stressed. So right there, I am grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my partner. I wanted to strangle them last night, and they're doing me fucking head in. I think about leaving every bloody day. But you are grateful for them, and think about the things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my work. If you work, I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for the fact that I've got food to eat every single day. There's loads of things that you're grateful for, right? Write them down. And when you write them down, just write down a quick, brief description. I'm really grateful for my parents, right? I would not be able to manage without my parents looking after the kids and being there for me all the time. I am so grateful for that, and I'm so grateful for that. Write it down, close your eyes, and say it to yourself, and imagine one of the things that they've done for you lately that you're so grateful for, that words probably couldn't show the gratification that you've got from your kids. Remember the day those kids were born and how you felt. You're so grateful for that. Write that down, close your eyes, and think about it. Your job, even though you might hate your job, remember the day you applied for that job and you were told you got it. Do you remember how happy you were and how grateful you were? I thought, you know what, I'll be able to pay the bills, I'll be able to put the food on the table. Write it down and think about it. That feeling of gratitude, right, creates a vibrational frequency in the body. You can call it the law of attraction if you want, but it really helps to subside cortisol. Alright, if you want, I can show you some more journaling techniques that I use now for trying to manifest a really good day. But all those stuff manage cortisol. They manage your wit. What I realized was I never really had to focus. I haven't had to focus on my wit since I learned to manage my stress. I used to be stressed all the time, hyper focused on, you know, I'm a firefighter, I'm a personal trainer, and I've got this image I should be lean all the time, I should be super fit, watch everything you eat, and the more stress I put myself around that, the more I managed to eat more food, and the more food I ate, the more stressed with everything else that was going on around me, more I couldn't deal with fire calls at work and stuff. It just, everything was getting too much. And focusing on my wit was a struggle, right? Then that struggle was more struggle on top of struggle. From the time I've managed the control stress and depression and cortisol, I've actually stopped worrying about my wit, and my wit's the last thing now I ever need to worry about, because it manages itself, because all those cravings to overeat the wrong food and to do all the wrong things have gone away, because they were all stress and just coping mechanisms to stress. There's no point in trying to take away the coping mechanisms, because it would just manifest itself in another coping mechanism. It would do something else. What I had to do was learn to manage the stress. Once you manage the stress, if you want a bit of chocolate, you eat it, but you want to overconsume it, because you're not getting such a big dopamine hit off it anymore. It's nice, it tastes good, but it's not magic. Whenever I was stressed, a bar of chocolate, oh Jesus, so good, one more. You know, they say women think chocolate's better than sex. Anyway, I'll not go there, but it's the dopamine hit that you're getting from it, that's why. But your dopamine, you're getting such a big dopamine hit from it because of everything else that's happening. Does that make sense? So over the next 3 weeks, let's see if we can manage stress, so when we go into the next fasting challenge, we get even better results from it. And we can get results now. We don't have to focus on nutrition, we don't have to focus too much on anything. But remember, one of the key things for managing stress is also lifting weights. Lifting weights increases dopamine, which means you're no longer needing that dopamine hit. Alright, it helps to reduce body fat, which makes you feel better. It also regulates hormones, but it also brings down cortisol. The reason it brings down cortisol is when we're in the gym training, we're actually inducing cortisol. It's a stress response. So if I get a stress response whenever I stop training, everything comes down with it. Does that make sense? Think about leaving all your energy in the gym, all that sort of aggression and stuff that some people say, but you're getting such a big cortisol hit in a short period of time doing weights that afterwards the body's got to recuperate from it. It's got to go into parasympathetic, which then subsides and brings down all that cortisol. Does that make sense? So I hope this has helped. Please think about this. For me personally, this is the number one factor that prevents people from losing weight or puts the weight on in the first place. And trust me, I can tell you I'm about 99% sure that that's why it's happened to you, because I've done this long enough, I've seen enough people, I've tried to help enough people, I've struggled with helping people, but it actually helped me identify, wait, well, here's the main culprit, here's the reason why we're struggling. It's not the nutrition, it's not the exercise regime, because I know I've got the knowledge and I've got the experience to write out the best diets I can give you. I know I've got the best experience and qualifications to give you the best workout possible, but why are you not sticking to it? Why it's not working? It's all okay.